Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Erica, and if you're new to my channel, I make a lot of writing related videos. And today I'm back with another one. As you guys can tell by the title, this is going to be all about workshopping and the workshopping process and expectation. I've been wanting to do this video for a really long time, just considering the fact that I've been in workshop for like the last couple of months. So I'm not an expert, but I have a lot of experience and I want to share that with you guys. Keep in mind that this is experience in a classroom setting. This is for academics. I'm getting a grade. I kind of have no choice. Like if I want to graduate, I have to do this workshop. So just keep that in mind. It's not like an outside type of workshop thing. This is really just, school setting. These are also just things that I've personally experienced. I'm not saying that this is going to be the same for you, by no means, but I feel like it's a good thing to kind of like learn and hear about other people's experiences at workshop, just to kind of prep yourself. I honestly wish that I can go back in time and watch workshop related videos just so I could kind of get a feeling of what is to be expected in workshop, because to be honest with you guys, it could be kind of intimidating and scary sometimes. This is by no means things that you should definitely expect, but in most cases you will come across some of these things. So without further ado, let me just jump right into this video. So the number one most important thing in my opinion is to approach workshop with an open mind. This is obviously important for a number of reasons, but mostly just because you'll be exposed to different types of writers, different types of like genres that maybe you've never read before or maybe not like, and you really need to be open-minded and considerate. And I say to be open-minded because you're going to be involved with things that you might not be necessarily comfortable with. You might be reading, pieces that you've never read before, or like genres that you've never read before. You might be introduced to a new writing style, whatever the case may be. It might not be in your immediate comfort zone, but you still have to approach it with an open mind. A big thing about workshop is that you're not only reading and like editing someone's work, you're also giving them critiques. And if you approach the workshop with an open mind, you'll give them a more honest and helpful critique. What I suggest for this is to set your bias aside. Try to keep all of your personal opinions to yourself, because honestly those aren't super helpful to anyone. So for example, if you don't like horror or romance and you come across a piece that is, like horror and romance, or like romantical horror, or whatever the case may be, you can't just like discard the piece because you don't like the genre. That's not fair to the writer. That's kind of not even meeting the requirements of the workshop. So when you go to write your critique, you can't say something like, oh, I didn't like this because I don't like horror and I don't like romance and this sucks. That's not fair. You can't do that. So this doesn't only make you look like a big jerk, but it's also really unprofessional. If you approach someone's work like this, you kind of look like an asshole. So you really got to get in the mindset that people are there for a reason. A lot of them are there to make writing a career, so you really got to be mindful of what you are telling them, or how you're critiquing their work, or how you're even approaching their work. If they are dead set on romance or dead set on horror and that's not your thing, you can't be the one to tell them that it's bad. The only way that you could ever kind of like make your complaints about something is if the premise of the story isn't working, but that's a whole different thing. So really kind of keep your personal opinions to yourself. Also with that, if you do find something that you don't necessarily think works in the piece, it is important to be honest with your feedback. It is important to tell them how they can fix that. Now I don't just mean, point out a passage or like a quote from their story and be like, this sucks, I hate it, I don't get it. If you don't get it and you think it really is important to for the writer to kind of like elaborate or fix, quotes what you are talking about. So like go back into the story, highlight something that you think doesn't work, and then elaborate. And like let's just say for example it's a plot point. Let's say there's a point in the story where the author is like, okay, this story takes place in so and so, and then there's a really unexplainable time jump to like the future or the past, whatever the case may be, and there's no indicator, or you were like lost. That's something to point out. And if there's a section like within the story that actually demonstrates that, I would highlight that and I would tell them that they should work on that. But do it in a very professional manner. Don't just say, this doesn't make sense, I don't like it. Actually have some proof and some reasoning as to why you think it's problematic. Now I know I keep mentioning critiques, but I am going to make a whole different video on workshop critiques, because that's a whole different video all in itself, and I can ramble on about that. But this is just for, workshopping and the expectations and all of that. So also on the topic of an open mind, you gotta realize that you are gonna be reading triggering pieces. So another thing that you have to consider is that some of the things you might be reading are gonna be triggering. And I know that most authors in a workshop setting are kind of really craftful and skillful in like warning you that there are triggers in their story. But if they don't, you really already should have that thought and idea in your head that you might be reading something that's gonna make you uncomfortable. You gotta realize that the author wrote that for a reason, and although it might make you uneasy, it's not your place to tell them that it's not good or they shouldn't be writing about the subject matter. Because number one, you're kind of like trying to limit so much creativity. And number two, you never know why the author wrote what they wrote. So really just kind of accept it. And if it's something that's too much for you to handle, I'm sure you can make arrangements with the person who is running your workshop or something, but you really need to just be mindful that that could happen. So number two is to be prepared ahead of time, and I seriously cannot stress this enough. What I mean by this is, if let's just say for the sake of this video, we're talking about, classroom workshops, and let's say you're taking maybe 4 to 6 other courses. You know for a fact that one of your classes are going to have, at least 1 or 2 workshops. You should be planning by the time you realize that that's going to happen. Now, what I mean by this is, like, let's just say for whatever reason you're taking a bunch of writing courses and you don't know that there's going to be workshops, which is really strange to me, but that's just my point of view, whatever. But let's just say you don't know, and then on syllabus day, the paper says, oh shit, you're going to have 2 workshops. From that point on, you should be planning what you're going to be doing for those workshops. You really don't want to wait till the last minute, because writing a story is hard, especially if you're writing a short story. I don't really know how other workshops are like, considering I only have my experience, but all of my workshops were short stories. So writing a short story within like 48 hours is damn near impossible for me. You have to create the characters, the settings, the plot. You have to basically just know everything ahead of time, plan it out, and then write it, and then edit it. That stuff takes a buttload of time, trust me. I know this from personal experience, because last semester when I had my other workshop, I kind of wrote my short story literally like 4 days before it was due. And I don't recommend that at all. Trust me, don't do that, because your professor, whoever is, coordinating the workshop, will definitely tell in your writing that you wrote it very last minute. But not only that, if you're gonna write it last minute, obviously it's gonna be sloppy. Obviously it's not gonna come out to your standards, but also you're not gonna get the feedback you want. You're really not. People are gonna be dwelling on the fact that you rushed it so late. They're gonna be like, well, you didn't put any time into it, so I can't really critique this. I've actually seen that been done to some of my friends and some of my fellow writers. It's really, really crappy. But at the same time, it's like, this is an art, so you really need to put time into it. And you don't want to be the person rushing last minute to finish it. Something that I think that could be really helpful for this is choosing the appropriate workshop date, if you guys have that option. If you don't, then you kind of just have to be a little flexible. But if you have the option, like I do this semester, choose a date that is reasonable for you. I chose my workshop to be the second workshop slot, and I know you guys are probably like, why? But I know that if I hold it off, I'm gonna be so busy with other things that I'm not gonna be able to put my all into that story. So I wanted to get it out of the way. But if you're not like that, if you know that you don't like doing things last minute, I really recommend to choose a date that's more reasonable for you. I wouldn't recommend choosing dates closer to finals. But if you're that kind of person, go for it. But if not, I would choose a date that's more reasonable, in my opinion. That brings me to my third tip, and that is to revise, revise, revise. Like, I can't stress that enough. As I said previously, if you are rushing it and you don't revise it, you're not gonna get good feedback. But at the same time, let's just say you really worked hard on your story and you've noted down to the T and you're so ready for workshop, but you either A, didn't revise, or B, didn't revise enough, and you go into workshop and you're like, I'm fine, whatever, I know I did fine. You're not gonna get those great results that you're looking for. You're not gonna get that feedback. People are gonna find something about your story, whether it be grammatical errors, plot errors, maybe misspelling, maybe just like little things, maybe even to indenting, people really, dwell on. I don't know, but that's just a thing. So you really want to be very careful on how you revise. It's so important. It's probably, I know it's the most annoying part and the most tedious part of workshopping and writing in general, but it's vital, guys. It's so vital. You want people to enjoy your work, but you also want them to read it without having to stumble on words that don't make sense or maybe grammatical errors. You want that to not be a thing. So just revise. That way your whole workshop experience goes a lot smoother. That brings me to number 4. Aesthetic is actually really important. While ultimately the content itself is what matters in, a workshop setting, what matters, like your whole writing and the plot, everything that's super important. It's also important to consider the aesthetic of the story. For example, I know this is kind of like out there and I know it doesn't apply to everybody, but for me, I really like the Garamond font. I think that's how you say it. I'm not really sure. But Garamond, I really like that font. So I tend to use that for a lot of my pieces. But if, let's just say for some reason, I write a romance story or like, I don't know, a high fantasy story, I'm not going to use that font for that story. So my point is you really need to pay close attention to detail and, your aesthetics. Font really does make a difference in how people read the story. That's true. But also kind of like how you're titling your story. Is it going to be centered? Is it going to be off, somewhere abstract on the paper? These are very little minor details, but it's really important to pay attention to. It ties along with professionalism and kind of like, ooh, this story is going to be so cool because this person wrote this. Like if you have a title page all in itself with like your name, the story title, blah, 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 that's cool. Not necessary, but cool. But it's something to consider for sure. I also plan on making a video about stylistic choices. If that's something you're interested in, let me know because I'm all about that life, like for real. I find design and like that stuff is just as vital as writing the whole story. So now my last tip, number 5, is to just not get your feelings hurt. Yes, I know this is kind of self-explanatory, but you'd be surprised how many people get their feelings hurt during workshop. I've seen it. The fact is, not everyone's gonna like your writing. You're gonna either A, piss somebody off, or B, disappoint somebody. People are not everyone will like it, and you just kind of have to accept that. It's not on you. It's just the fact that people have different tastes, and that's okay. That's actually a good thing because that kind of like broadens your horizons and you could reach out to more people. If you get a bad review or negative feedback during your workshop, don't take it personal. 9 out of 10, those people, they don't hate you. Hopefully they don't hate you. They're just kind of trying to help you. They're trying to, if it's something that you didn't think that people would not like, or if it's something that somebody has a problem with, they're gonna tell you why, and they're gonna most likely tell you how to fix it. You should just take that feedback and kind of turn it into something positive and take it and fix your story, because most of the cases, these feedbacks, like these honest and kind of sometimes brutal, I'm not gonna lie, feedbacks are just for you to help your writing, and just take it that way. I used to take negative feedback really personal until I realized that wasn't helping my writing or helping my stories at all. What people say ultimately, I know this is gonna suck, but what people say about your writing ultimately doesn't matter. Like if you like your writing, that's all that really matters. But just listen, hear them out, and if it's helpful, it's helpful. But don't let it beat you down. Don't let it like question your abilities or anything like that. Just take it and work on your writing. This really ties in with professionalism and understanding the basics of constructive criticism, and it's so vital. So for example, in my school we have this thing called the cone of silence, or at least that's what we do in my workshop, which is when somebody's being workshopped, they're in this little cone of silence and they're not allowed to talk at all. If there are questions brought up in the discussion during workshop, those are kind of like conversed between the students and between the professor, but the actual author can't write well, can't talk. So that's just a way of kind of really hearing people out. You don't want to be that writer who kind of defends their work. You want to hear what they have to say and what they think, because ultimately you gotta have to treat them like beta readers. That is what beta readers do. They discuss your writing, and that's okay. Just remember that these workshops are designed to help you, and you take what you will out of them, but you just gotta be prepared for them. I know it's hard, but be prepared. That's it for this video, guys. I hope you guys liked it. Please give it a thumbs up if you did. Comment down below some of your experiences in workshop, because I know everyone's different, and I'm really curious as to hearing about what you guys have done during workshop. If you guys like this video, be sure to subscribe to my channel because I make videos like this all the time, and you can come and hang out with me. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.